Hello, everybody. Hi, and looking forward to this show as well. I am Teacher Sami, and welcome to our online teaching live festival. It is so exciting. And let me introduce myself quickly. I'm Simone, who knows me as Teacher Simi. I come from sunny South Africa. Yes, it's only my pleasure to deal with everything in online teaching. Thank you. And I'm also very excited to be here, Bonnie. And so I live in Paarl, South Africa. I've been teaching English online since 2018. I have my own YouTube channel, Class in the Cloud, and I also teach full time. I'm married with a beautiful daughter, and yeah, that's all about me. So, welcome everybody. We're about 1 minute into this live chat. It's nice to see the comments coming through already, and right, so let's get started. First, I just want to say, Eric, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this awesome opportunity. All right, so before we start, let's have a look. I want to know, where are you all from? Let's say hello in the comments. They said, I am Sami, I'm from South Africa. I see there's someone from Madagascar, there's someone from India, Turkey. All right, they Winelands in the Western Cape. Super hot today as well. We're in the middle of summer. Algeria, we've got the UK, USA. Wow, we're quite an international crowd. So excited to be here with everybody. Right, there we are. Beautiful. Republic of Congo, Brazil. Wow, north, south, east, west, we're all here. Russia. Yes. All right. Now, let's get started. Thank you, Eric, for driving the background and the slides. If you can put up slide one, perfect. All right. So, welcome, everybody. This is Teacher Live Streaming Festival, teaching online. I'm Teacher Sami. Thank you, Eric, for inviting me. Today, we're going to talk about teaching English online. Now, can you give me a thumbs up? Who in this crowd watching today, who is all teaching English? Who teaches English? Who can tell me? Give me a thumbs up if you're an online English teacher. All right. So this is for people who want to teach English online, people who are investigating teaching English online, or teachers who want to look at other opportunities. Maybe they've been teaching for a little while and they're looking to broaden their horizons. So I am going to just talk about different types of teaching, different types of online teaching. Right. So we are 3 minutes into this live and super excited. Let's take a look. All right. As I said, I'm Teacher Simi. I am from sunny South Africa and I live in the beautiful Cape Winelands of the Western Cape. So happy to see some more teachers here as well. Right. Here we go. Next slide, please, Master Eric. Right. So, as I said, welcome everyone. And remember, if you're here, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you don't miss any of the other lives or wonderful videos that our friend Eric puts up so regularly. All right. So, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like to show your friends, please feel free to share. And remember, this is a festival. There will be a live video every day for this week, and super excited to be part of this festival. Right, next slide. Let's get going. Today's video, we're going to be talking about Teacher Live Streaming Festival, and we're talking about who, what, who, when, where, how, and why teaching English online. So, what do you want to teach? Who do you want to teach? When can you teach? Talking about teaching English online. Where in the world can you teach? And how are you going to teach, and why do you teach? So some of you might find these words familiar. It's very much similar for when you write an essay, and that's who, what, when, where, how, why. All right, for 5 W's and an H. Now let's apply that to teaching English online. Hello from the Ukraine. And Yes, I'm really happy to support you. Thank you very much. And Baghdad, capital of Iraq. Wow, such an international um, audience here today. Indonesia. Lovely. All right. So, what, who, when, where, how, and why for teaching English online? Let's start. Now, what can you teach when you're teaching English online? Right. So a lot of people come into the industry thinking, I'm just going to teach. As some of the university students may think, easy peasy, let's go on and make some money. But it's not always as simple. Before you start teaching English online, you need to make sure what is it that you want to teach. Do you want to teach phonics, reading, writing, grammar? Do you want to help people prepare for IELTS? Do you want to teach business or academic English? Do you want to just teach conversational English? And these different parts are different aspects of English will influence all the others: who, where, when, right? And also your base rate, right? So that is very important that you establish for yourself what is it that you want to teach. What is your niche? What are you good at? If you're very good at grammar, then you want to help people to speak grammatically correct. Maybe grammar is um your forte. Or perhaps you want to help students to prepare for that all important IELTS exam to make sure that they can get into the universities and the workplaces they want to get into successfully. Or maybe you just want to help people with conversation. Maybe you want to work with the babies, level 0, teaching phonics. All right. My personal favorite that I love teaching is reading. My personal philosophy is that a child who reads will be an adult who thinks. All right. That is my motto in life. So I've always encouraged my child to read, and I love it to see children read. And children who read in a language that is not their mother tongue, even more beautiful. All right. Reading to me is the core of any language learning. And, but that's just my opinion. So if you have a comment on anything that I'm saying, if you agree or if you disagree, please feel free to comment. Okay. This is an engaging, interactive lesson, and I'm super excited to hear what you have to say. All right. Well, it. All right, so let's see. Now, once you establish what you want to teach, that then you'll realize, okay, now who am I going to teach? Do you want to teach adults? Do you want to teach children? If you want to teach children, do you want to teach the little ones or the teenagers? Completely different approach. Or do you want to teach university students? So you need to establish, once you establish what you're going to teach, you're going to establish who you're going to teach, right? Very, very important. If you don't get along with teenagers, it doesn't help you apply to work for a middle school English company who deals with middle school children. All right. Or if you want to be more engaging, maybe the university students whose level of English will be a little bit higher than that, maybe of a 5-year-old child on level 0. Okay. So it's really important to know who you want to teach. Who is your target market? All right. Siberia, Russia, and I've been teaching for 5 years to 13. Ah, excellent. Very nice age group. I teach 5 years to 16 years. I love teaching the children, and recently I've been teaching level 0, which is really interesting. Um, a lot of repeating and a lot of TPR. All right. All right. And we have someone who says, I teach teenagers. They are the most fun to work with. They are indeed. And usually teenagers are already on level maybe A2, B1, B2. So you can start engaging in conversation and correct that grammar. Mm-hmm. It does keep it interesting to have different ages, of course. All right. So that's, I agree. I agree. So many companies have adults and children, and some people like to mix it up a bit. All right. And I have a lot of children teachers here. All right. So I teach age 6 to 12. I teach all ages. University students are my favorite. All right. There we are. Okay. And I do like the littlies. Okay. I had a 3-year-old student the other day, level 0. to pull out all my props. That was so funny. So it's like you got your flashcards and you've got your little props and your stars. So I'm very much a kindergarten teacher. Okay, and adults, but I would like to start with children. Okay, so if you're already teaching adults, but you'd like to start working for children, perhaps when you're looking for online teaching opportunities, look for the companies who work specifically with children. And then really work on your TPR. Children, you've got to teach much slower. You've got to be very animated and excited. So remember, children on average have a attention span of 15 to 25 minutes. So you really got to keep it engaging to keep them occupied and their attention fixed on you. All right. So thank you very much. All right. So all ages don't have a preference. They all bring something along. Right. So moving right along. So now you've established what you're going to teach and who you're going to teach. Now you've got to find yourself where in the world. Okay. So what nationality would you like to teach? Now, to many teachers, it doesn't really matter, but it does depend on where you are in the world. All right, which will become to the next point. I haven't repeat primary students. Okay, good. All right, a lot of people who love teaching children here. That's excellent. We're going to have a generation of excellent and wonderfully spoken English spoken children. All right, so here we go. So commonly teaching English online, there are different markets or different target markets, let me put it that way. You can teach in South America, right, or in Europe, Middle East, or East and Asia. All right, so it really depends on where you live and what you prefer. But all these regions are quite prominent when it comes to teaching English, but do keep in mind that different regions may have different base rates averages. Okay, so that is important to bear in mind. The East being very, very popular. So China being China, Japan, Korea, Thailand, all those Eastern countries very popular, and the Brazilians as well in South America. All right, there we go. So let's see, who teaches English in South America? Give me a thumbs up. Who teaches English in South America? Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. And who teaches English in Europe? So I have a few students from France. I have a few students from Italy. I also have students from Russia and Turkey. So so Valeria, you teach in South America. Good. Who teaches in Europe? Uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay, we got someone from Syria. Good, good, good. All right. I recently also had a student from Saudi Arabia who I taught. So Middle East is quite big in English, and then of course China is very big. But with the recent how do you put it, regulations that they've put in place, it's quite a difficult market to get into now. All right. Yes, yes, from Russia, Syria, Brasilia. All right, excellent. Now, right, so when you decide the nationality you want to teach, all right, whether you want to teach the Europe or Asia or South America, you need to decide then, okay, where are you located and when are you going to teach? So, for example, you live in the USA, you want to teach China, then you need to realize that you're probably going to be teaching at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning. All right. Whereas I'm in South Africa, I teach children in China. So my working day is from 11 p.m. to 3 p.m. I will be those peak hours. Right. So it really just depends where you are in the world. So if I am in South Africa, I am Greenwich Meridian time plus 2. If I want to teach in South America, that means that it'll be 6 hours behind me. So I'll be teaching 10 p.m. at night, which I don't want to do. So you really got to decide on your time zone and look at the time zones of the different English companies and decide which time would be best suited for your lifestyle. Okay, so that is very important to consider, is your time zone and the time zone of your students, right? Remember as well, if you teach multiple students from multiple countries and time zones, I know that many calendars, including Google Calendar, you can actually set the time in their local time zone and it will convert it for you automatically. So converting time zones can be very tricky. And so that's why I would suggest picking a time zone. It'll make your conversions easier and also limit double booking or bouncing classes due to time zone errors. UK and China works well. Yes, I agree. All right. South Africa and China works well as well. It's a very convenient time of day. It's not too early, not too late for the evening classes. But if you want to teach daytime China, it is 4 a.m. in South Africa. All right. So that does, your day does get quite long. All right. So there we go. Moving on to number 6. All right. So now we've established what we're going to teach. We've established who we're going to teach, when we're going to teach. All right. Now we've come to the point where now I know exactly what I want to do, but how am I going to do it? How are you going to teach the students whom you are now trying to find? There are several ways to engage in online teaching. There is the paid platform like Preply, Hello, Verbling, some others as well. I can't think of any more. But there are, and basically you go on, you create your profile, and you create your own materials and set your own rates. And the company then takes a percentage of the rate that you ask. Okay, but you're in the driver's seat, but you're just in a rented car per se, for that analogy. Okay, and so you are completely in control of your base rate, of your materials, of the students. You just basically rent the platform. All right, so that is quite a nice way to do it. If you like to be completely in control. Okay. Then the next way, which is probably the most popular, would be your your contract being your contract. Okay, being contracted out. Now, this is the most popular way of teaching English online. You go and search for a company on one of the job sites for online teaching. You apply. You go in. You do your interview. You do your demo. They give you a contract. They give you a base rate, and you teach on their platform. And then you get a regular payment once a month, twice a month from that company. So that is the most common way of doing it. It is probably the safer way of doing it as well, but not the most. How can I put this? You're not gonna benefit the most financially from being contracted out like that, even though it is probably a bit more secure. Okay, so I have multiple contracts. I actually have 5 contracts, and then I teach independent as well. So I have a nice full schedule. So that's the one thing that you need to do is, if you do work for a company being contracted out, it's important to diversify. Work for several companies. Don't have all your eggs in the same basket. The reason being, if one of the companies has a hard time or something happens, and then you still have other companies to fall back on where you can fill those spaces that you've lost. I learned that the hard way, and so that if something happens to the company, you don't have to now go start from ground zero again. I started teaching English online to Chinese students, but noticed that since educational changes, opportunities have lessened since 2019 for teaching online Chinese learners. Yes, that is 100% correct. That has to do with the regulations in China. I know there's a lot of videos on my channel. I have 2 videos on that particular topic, on what happened in China, what the regulations were about, and then how to be successful in spite of those regulations. So do go to my channel if you want to learn more about those Chinese regulations. So that's one of the reasons as well why you need to diversify. So for myself, for example, I teach Europe and Asia, right? So I have Chinese students, I have students in Thailand, and I have a company with teachers all around the world. So that does make a big difference if you diversify. Yes, I like your classroom. Thank you very much. There's my blackboard and my globe and my book rack. I think it looks quite sweet as well. What do I do for backup power supply? That's a very important question if you're from South Africa, especially in the current climate. So what we have is I have a UPS for my fiber line and my router, right? And it keeps my fiber and router running for at least 4 hours, which is really nice. And it charges up again in less than an hour. So that is very important to keep your connection up. Fiber to me has worked better than the having LTE with a service provider, because with multiple blackouts, sometimes the batteries on the cell phone towers don't have enough time to charge, and then there's no signal on the towers. So it doesn't help you have all the backup power in the world if there's no signal. So fiber I found works better for connectivity. Then the other thing I have is we have 100 amp hour, 100 amp hour batteries and an inverter. Okay, so when we have 6 hours without power, I can still power up my laptop and keep my UPS running. That's what I have. It can be an expensive layout in the beginning, but it is 100% worth it to have that peace of mind that if the power goes out, even for 6 hours, you can continue working. If you want to find out more about that, I have a video on that on my channel as well. All right, so right, Guatemala, hello, hello. Coming back to working in teaching English online. So now we've spoken about contracts. Okay, so we know paid platform, no contract, and then going independent. Now, this has been a huge buzzword in the last 2 years. Every teacher and their puppy wants to go independent. Okay, and what it means is that you break away from the middleman, you go and look for the students yourselves, you have a platform like Zoom or like Classin, and you try and recruit the students yourselves and work with the students. So you've got to collect the money from the students, you have to recruit the students, you have to do the marketing. It essentially becomes a business, and that is quite tricky, especially if you don't have personal contacts in the areas where you want to teach. Breaking into that market independently can be very hard. I've been trying for my friend and myself, my friend Chateau, have been trying to do it for quite a while now, and it is quite difficult to break into the market independently. All right, another friend from Bangladesh. Okay, I want to know anyone here that has been teaching independently successfully. I am independent and I love it. Well, congratulations, Claire Stubbs. All right, so maybe send me a message later. I'd love to know how you do it. I'm desperately trying to go independent, but I've been finding it difficult to find students. Okay, so yes, excellent. Independence is the way to go. All right, there we are. And WeChat. Ah, is that where you advertise on WeChat? Okay, all right. I have WeChat. Nice. Okay, so that's probably the best way if to do it. If you can break into the industry independently, then you have the winning game. Okay, that's the best how on to teach English online. Then of course, now the other how on the other side of the branch is, what do you want to teach? Do you want to teach one-on-one? Do you want to teach small groups? So for example, one versus two, three, four, or do you want to teach larger groups? So I teach children, so that is my perspective. So how I have all three different ways of teaching. So for the one company, I teach one-on-one. So it's just me and one student, and we have our materials and we work through it. Then I also have small groups, often in an app called Classin, and we will then have 4 or 6 students, and we will work through the content together, which is quite nice because you can have them doing role play, you can have them engage, you can have them co-read. Very, very nice. I actually enjoy the smaller groups more than one-on-one. And then, of course, you have your bigger groups. Bigger groups can be on an app like Classin, where you have 15 to 20 students logging at the same time, or you can do co-teaching. So that will then be you on the big screen, you got a class on the other side, and a teacher facilitating inside the class, and you present the class to the English materials to the class. So that's another way of how to teach. Okay. All right. How some company names. Okay, let's give you some company names. So basically, NovaKid is one. Micro Language, Hujang, Jianghu is another one. Who else can I think of now? JX China ESL, just to name a few. There we are. So those are a few of the companies that are currently have, but what you would have noticed lately as well is, due to the regulations, a lot of the companies have closed their doors and reopened under different names. So there are lots of new yes, okay, Preply, Italki, Hujang. Yes, I worked for Hujang for 3 years. Beautiful company to work for. And so there we go. Right. Excellently done. Excellent. What's it? Excellently done. All right, that's what I'm teaching. All right, so there we are. So let's see. That's it. So now I've come to my last slide, and we're going to look at, why do you teach English online? Okay, there has to be a reason. There has to be a motivation if you want to do it in the long term, if you want to make it sustainable for yourself. All right. So if you're going to do it just for the money, I'm afraid you're not going to be there very long. All right, you have to have some other reason. There we are. So yes, ELT experiences. I also really enjoyed Hujang. I taught for them for 3 years. How much does teaching English online cost per hour? All right. So are you talking about teaching receiving the money or paying the money? As a student or as a teacher? Oh, we got someone from Spain as well. I love being independent. I can take holidays when I need to, work when I want to. Yes, that is, you're completely in control of your schedule. Yeah, and you can communicate with your students personally. Much easier to take leave and so on. All right. So how much? All right. So your average rate, what I've noticed now around the world, is your average rate for teaching English online will be anything from 12 to 18 US dollars per hour. All right. So that would be what I would expect to be a reasonable rate. But it depends again on that who are you teaching, and which companies you're working for. Some companies exploit the teachers completely. I've heard of a company that was offering $7 an hour, which is a really low rate. So depending on your experience. So for example, if you just want to do conversational English, you're going to have a lower base rate. But for some of us, we have degrees, we have experience, we have TEFL, we are qualified teachers. So then you expect a livable rate, something that will make sense for you, something that will pay your bills. All right. So it depends on where you live, your exchange rate, what rates will be acceptable for you. But I would say anything from $12 to $18 per hour, that will be an acceptable base rate in the current market. If you're getting to the 20 to 25, you are in the 5% of the lucky ones. All right. And that's what makes independent teaching so wonderful, because you cut out the middleman. Okay. So you can then ask the rates that the companies ask, instead of being paid a portion of what the companies ask. Okay. And that's why some people want to go independent, because we do get exploited quite badly. All right. So I hope that answers your question. 12 to 18 US dollars per hour is your average. Some people tell me that's ridiculously low. Again, it depends on where you are in the world. Okay. Right. With Preply, we can set your own rate minus commission. Exactly. So that's what I spoke about earlier. That is almost as a pay-as-you-go platform. So you set your materials, you set your rate, you set your schedule, and you pay a commission for using the platform. Right. That is a very nice way to do it as well. Semi-independent, but you still need to pay for their facilities. All right, here's someone from the Philippines. Hello, hello, welcome. All right, so there we go. So let's go back to why do you teach English online? Right. I teach English online because I love teaching. I love working with children. I love meeting children from around the world. And I have the privilege and opportunity to work from home. Okay, that is huge for me. And I absolutely love it. I've teaching English online has given me the opportunity to just be myself, be at home, earn a good income, and it's given me the financial and personal freedom I could only have dreamed of before. So I really enjoy it. It's something that I can see myself doing for a very long time, but it depends from person to person. So what are some of the reasons why you teach English online? Why are you doing it? Why do you get up at 4 a.m. to teach your students? Why do you sit until 10 a.m. to teach your students, depending on the time zones you're working? Why? That's a big question, because that will tell you how sustainable your current situation is. Right. Are you happy doing it? Or has it become a complete drag? Right? If it doesn't excite you anymore, then you need to explore different avenues. Maybe if teaching adults doesn't excite you anymore, maybe you got to spice it up and go teach some of the littlies. Love working from home in your pajama bottoms and slippers. Yes, I cannot agree more. In the winter, pajama bottoms, wrapped in a blanket, slippers, cup of hot chocolate. All right, yes, I agree completely. I don't have to go out in the cold and rain in the winter. That is stunning. And I can go swim in between my lessons if I got time in the summer. Yes, I agree completely. All right. So it is a very comfortable job to have. I love the relationship I can build with my students. Yes, building rapport with your students. Oh my goodness, yes. I have built relationships with students. I remember working for Hujang and I had a student 2 or 3 times a week for 3 years, and we built a relationship and I got to know the student got to know me. And it's just something beautiful when you build a relationship with the students and their families. Um, I love I love to help people and many the opportunity to help change lives. Yes. In many countries, learning English changes lives. It opens opportunities, opens doors. I agree completely. Being able to be part of that positive change is so exciting. Okay. And what in your opinion of online English teaching being rather unregulated industry? It is an unregulated industry. All right. We don't have unions. We're all um, basically landing where the waves drop us. But that's one of the reasons why the regulations in China had such a big hit. One of the main reasons they gave for putting in those regulations was the fact that the industry was unregulated. People were just charging what they want. They had something like called a free charging, and they wanted to regulate that so that your middle income families, your poorer families had the same opportunity for their children to do English than your more affluent families, right? So, and they wanted that opportunity to be across the board available to everybody. In China, I know specifically they were talking about some families spending 50 to 70% of their income on education for their children, right? Because especially the English teaching industry, online teaching industry, was so unregulated, and they could just charge whatever they wanted to. So that it is unregulated. If you just look at what they offer the teachers, all right? Some companies will offer you $4 an hour. Some companies will offer you $7 an hour. Some companies will offer you $25 an hour. Then the same company will offer someone from America $25 an hour, but someone from the Philippines $10 an hour. All right. So it's really unregulated, and that makes it very sad and makes it very difficult to achieve a really, how can I put that? Makes it difficult for us teachers to make a good living, because you never quite know who you can trust in the industry. Okay. Yes, Valeria, in China, it enables students to attend university. Yes, it does. All right. So that is one of the reasons why I love teaching, is that I can see the students progress from level to level. I had one student who I started at level 0, and I saw him through all the way to level 4. And from not knowing how to say his name to having a basic conversation, which is something absolutely beautiful, and it makes it all worthwhile. So yes, I agree. It enables students to attend the universities. It opens those doors for them. It enables them to find jobs in different countries. Yes, 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 yes. Great to join. Yes, I'm so happy you joined as well. All right, so that is the end of my slides. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you found it insightful and interesting. Please remember, while you're here, like, share, subscribe, rate, ring that bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Right. So I'm gonna put the word up here. Eric, hello. See you joining us as well.
Hi, I thought I'd quickly jump in, because it was such a great talk, and I've got a few questions that I wanted to ask you, because I wrote them down here. Hello, everyone. I quickly popped in. Okay, so it's so good to see you, Semi, because we've been chatting for a while now, and I'm so grateful that you came on the stream to talk about online teaching. So yeah, I mean, you started teaching in 2018, right before, the pandemic, and before we were all forced to go online. So how was that? Where did you first start?
I started working for iTutor Group. That's where I first started. That was my very first gig, and wasn't the best of base rates, but I gained a lot of experience. Their training was excellent, and it was a good stepping stool. And after that, I got an amazing opportunity with Hujang, who I worked for 3 years. And I was very grateful that I got into the industry when I did, the pandemic and before the regulations. Because especially after the regulations, it's very difficult to find a good contract.
You gave a really nice story of a student that you take from basically zero English to having a conversation. Do you have any other successes, things that have worked for you in the online classroom, that some things that you did and you just thought, wow, this worked out so well, or you thought, I should do more of this while teaching online?
Yes, I do. And that for me was diversifying. So because if you teach the one-on-one, just one-on-one, or if you teach just children, or if you teach just one aspect, it can get quite boring. Like the same thing, same routine every day. And the one thing that changed it for me was when I changed it up a bit. So I have some one-on-one students, I have some groups of 3 to 4, and I have the co-teaching as well. And I actually found that being a classroom teacher, doing the co-teaching classes, was so much fun. You have this class of 20, 30 students in front of you, you're on the big screen, and you're just teaching English as if you're in the class, but you're on the screen. And that was absolutely amazing, just to see how excited they are to see you. And and then you put them on the big screen and they all get all excited and jump up and down, and having them come forward, and it's absolutely wonderful. I love the
Well,
co-teaching.
you've got such a nice presence, very engaging, and I think that's something that all online teachers and normal teachers alike should actually foster, and that's how to engage our students. So I see my dad said, yeah, using props with students. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. But what are some ways that you engage your students online? Because it's very easy for them just to switch off, just to sit there and
Of
listen,
course.
and be
As I
passive.
said,
So how do you get it out of
exactly. How do you get it out of them? It's engage, 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 and getting them to engage back. It can be so tricky. So as your dad said, props. I mean, I wish I could show you. I've got so many props here on my desk, like flashcards and like all kinds of stuff. So yes, props, very good way to engage students. Puppets, for a little one who's too shy to talk, they might talk to the puppet, but they don't want to talk to you because you're the big, scary foreign teacher, but they'll talk to a little bunny puppet. Okay. And then also writing on the board, getting them to write on the board. Constantly calling on them to write on the board, constantly calling them to answer you or to engage in role play. And I think it should be because they want to learn to speak English ultimately. So if it can be 30-40% you and 60-70% student speaking, then you have an engaging student. So the way of the game is to get the student to engage on the board, get the student to speak, and whatever you have to do that. Every student's different. So
I think one of the great things about teaching online is that you've got the computer, and there are, I mean, instead of printing out things, I mean, you can show them pictures too. You can also, I think there are many great apps to use if possible. I know many of the online teaching sites, you can't really go off site, and they've got their own curriculum. But if it's possible, some of the websites I like Bamboozle. That's really fun for young kids. I don't know if you've used that one before. I don't know if it's still free, but it used to be free with lots of fun games. And even with my classes now, I use something called live worksheets, where basically you show a worksheet. You look it up. It's free. And then you go through the worksheet with your students. It's an easy way. And they also get that sense of completion when they go through. I wanted to say accomplishment, but it's when they complete it, they feel more inclined to finish it. And then there are other things too, like online bingo, categories. What are some good apps or websites that you like to use when teaching online?
ESLgames.com, I think it's that, ESLgames.com. It's also, so it's an online game. So what you can do is you can screen share, and you can actually go and type in, for example, if you're doing a grammar concept, and so you're doing is and are, and then you just type in the grammar concept you're doing, and you have 4 or 5 games you can choose from. You choose your game and you screen share. And what's nice on a platform like Classroom is that the student then can also play on the screen, so they can actually roll the dice, and they can write, and they can move their own little the token. And so games are big on getting students to play. So yes, games are a great way to engage your younger students. And I think maybe for adults, how would you engage? I mean, I work with children mainly, so I've got colorful props and all kinds of stuff, but I find it difficult to engage with adults, especially adults who are shy. What advice would you have for engaging adults?
Well, so with like all students, you want to start simple, but you want to have a base to work from. So let's say I work with adults or advanced students. Maybe I'll find an article about, let's say I'm teaching someone in South Korea. I find an article about Blackpink, one of the K-pop groups. Then first I'll show them a photo of the group and say, okay, or of one member, and I'll ask them, oh, who's this? Oh, it's Jenny from Blackpink. Oh, what do you know about Jenny? And then I'll talk about Jenny or what their feelings about her. And then I'll open up. So if it's an article, the title of the article, Blackpink first show in Antarctica. and then I'll be like, okay, so what do you think is going to happen? Have you read about this? Do you know? And then you get them to talk about their opinion. So first you want to have a base to build from, and then after that I would share the article. Maybe we can go through it together. I can highlight some of I'll ask him to highlight or tell me some of the difficult vocabulary. Then I'll explain it and ask them if they can use it in a sentence. So I think it's just with students, it's about exploration. It's the same for adults too, but there is a different way of dealing with it. I don't know. I think it's a skill that you learn as a teacher. I think a very valuable skill is to get your students to engage, like you said, at least 60 to 70% of the time. And the more they're talking, especially if it's focused, then the better for that. We've got another question here from Majid. He said, how do you get them to pair up or team up in online classes? Any clues to create maximum involvement?
Well, that's a very good question, and that's also one of those things you have to learn as a teacher, especially as an online teacher. It's very difficult or very challenging to get that group work because you're not in the class. You can't walk in between the students and check their group work. So breakout rooms are a good way to do that. I know you can do it in Zoom and you can do it in Classroom as well. Another way is as peer reading, co-reading. So you maybe have a reading article and you divide the article into the different paragraphs. And each student has a paragraph to read. So you have them tag read each other. If you've got role play, you don't just have two students role play. Each student gets a line and you work through it like that. Or you can play charades, play Pictionary, just so for example, let's say you're playing charades. So you get one student to act out the word. Maybe you're doing action verbs like swimming. Student acts swimming, and the rest of the students have to guess what the word is. So getting them to engage with each other as much as with you and the content. Peer learning is a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, I also feel that way. As it's fun teaching one-on-one, but it can also be exhausting because of all the effort you put into. What I enjoyed while I was teaching on Zoom with big classes, or let's say 10 to 20 students, is that you can randomly put them into groups, and then you can go and visit each group, and they're doing most of
the
work.
breakout rooms, yeah.
And then, what I think is important is that when you put your students into pairs or groups, they have something to do. So they've got a dialogue to perform, they've got a role play to do, they've got to work through a problem, or they've got to prepare a speech. And then the main thing is they should know that after 5 minutes or however long you give them, that they should be prepared to talk in front of class or with everyone. So that should be an expectation. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there in the groups, not say anything, and then come back and say, "Oh, teacher, we didn't have enough time." So it's very important to be able to go and move in between the groups and check in on them. But I really enjoyed that. Now, another question I had, because I was listening to you, and obviously I can hear that you've got a lot of experience, and if I put you in front of a class, you're going to kick butt. But what are some challenges that you've had with students? Some activities that you felt didn't work, or things you could have done to be better prepared? What are some challenges that you faced?
I find that many times your tweens and teens can be very challenging, especially if they're being forced to be there and they don't really want to be there. I've had a student who had earphones under the headphones, listening to music while we're supposed to be doing English. And I literally have to drag information out of that student. It is so tiring. And I just write like multiple choice questions on the board. You give me A, B, C, or D. Give me an answer. He's going to engage on the board. But that can be very challenging when a student doesn't want to be there and they're forced to be there, and the grandma's sitting with a stick behind them. And it's just that's to me is heartbreaking and challenging. You can see the child is near to tears or is so tired, and they have to do this lesson, and you still need to try and cheer them up and make it exciting. And that to me has been very, very challenging to try and engage a child who is not interested. is automatically I'm not there, so I can't put my hand through the screen and take the headphones out. I can just try and facilitate the situation as best as possible. But that was very, very challenging. And I've had a 7-year-old fall asleep on me. And then you kind of like what they do with Dora teaching. You ask the question and answer the question. Just
Just trying to get them going. Yeah, I can imagine
yeah,
that stuff. And you're also trying to create relationships with the students. It's so
you
important
are,
to build
yeah.
rapport with them. We've got a great question here by Jean. Sometimes teaching online could be boring. What can we do to overcome that, please? Any ideas?
Games, and more games.
Yeah, I think it's important,
Right.
and I think it's also important to pick relevant material or topics that the students are interested in. For me, I believe you should make it about the students and also make it useful, so that
Relevant.
whatever you're teaching, put it in the context of it's something that they're able to use when they walk out the door and they meet someone that speaks English. So it should be very useful for them. And then and I think just base it on the student, help them with that. I've got a really good question, and I wrote this down before. It's where do you see online teaching go in the future? So right now, you say some of you, I've been listening, have been talking about going independent, and so how do you see online teaching going? Because it's going to be here to stay, but it's unregulated. And I think we all want to find our own place where we can teach students and earn a living. But some of these companies are just underselling us. So where do you see
Exactly.
online
And
teaching going in the future?
that's a multifaceted answer actually. So for example, it's unregulated, and there will always be students who need to learn English, and there'll always be teachers who want to teach English. So I don't think that's going to change in the near future. But it is the regulating, especially if you got teachers who go independent off the bat, without any experience, without having worked for a company. That's just super dangerous, because then they overcharge or even undercharge. And so, but the future for me for online teaching, my greatest concern is AI. Because the technology is already there, artificial intelligence, where there is that website at the moment. I'm actually going to do a video about it in the near future, but where you can just ask it any question, or you can say, please put together an essay on that topic, and it will spit out the essay on that topic. So it's going to change the face of what homework looks like. It's going to change the face of what online teaching looks like. So the one industry that hasn't changed in the last 200 to 300 years has been the schooling industry, the brick and mortar schools. I mean, the schools still look the same as it did roughly when my grandparents went to school. The systems haven't really changed and adapted to modern technology, even though they've incorporated modern technology. So it'll be interesting, because with the advancement in technology, with the advancement of the AI technology, it makes me a little bit nervous, but I think there is that human element. People want to be with a real person. They want to talk to a real person. I'm still inclined to listen to a salesperson call me a real person. If it's a robot that calls me, I put the phone down. So I don't know. What is your take on it?
I think it's interesting from a teacher's point of view. I think AI, I think very soon we'll see some companies coming out with digital avatars and AI to teach students. You might see something like that coming out in the future. But I mean, it's like you said, it's that. Have you heard of the uncanny valley? The uncanny valley. It's where something seems real, but it's just not real enough. So you're in this weird place, and I don't think they'll ever replace teachers. So no, I think online teaching will be there. It'll be mixed in with real schools too, just like Martin says here. Says I think that's something will combine both brick and mortar schools and online. and it's going to work together. So I do believe that all teachers should be familiar with teaching online and how to do it. But one thing that stood out for me is with your channel, you post more lessons and content. And I think that, so you post some videos on classes. And I think more teachers have to become comfortable with sharing themselves digitally and promoting themselves. It's all about marketing, and then smart teachers like Claire go onto WeChat and they put out ads and they get students that way. So and props to them. So I think all of us, we should start putting our lessons out online. We should start putting out feelers to kind of grow our own reputation and online presence. So I think that's very important in the future.
Yes, I agree. I think in the end, the online English teaching industry has become very competitive, especially now post-COVID, where a lot of the teachers have been exposed to online teaching and how comfortable it is actually, and now have transitioned from brick and mortar to online. There was that whole big influx just after the Chinese regulations, where most of the companies had to freeze recruitment because everybody wanted to teach online. And so I think you're very right. So the teachers need to know how to teach in the class as well as online. I think the two are going to merge, and they are already. If you look at doing the co-teaching I do co-teaching in some of the public schools in China, and so they're already merging. I know Classin has recently also incorporated a school version where they can use the app in the classroom to get guest speakers in and to engage and stuff like that. So I think, yes, it's very much going to merge. The two are going to merge, and we need to be one step ahead of the technological advancements. And as I said, I've on my channel, I haven't had too much FaceTime. I lost quite a bit of my contracts with the Chinese regulations, so I had to work on what was financially viable to spend my time on. But I'm hoping to post more regularly. But the content is it's a different market as well to reach people as well.
Well, this is an interesting sorry, everyone. This is an interesting comment by Rosera. In the absence of feedback from an experienced teacher, what strategies can a novice online teacher employ to accumulate valuable experience? Now, I think that's a very interesting question, because you don't have many teachers that are are well versed at teaching online. I mean, it's only been around for the past 4 or 5 years, and it's not. I feel like at universities they're giving some tips and they help, but you don't really get feedback. You don't have someone sitting in on your lesson and saying, maybe you can do it this way, maybe you can do it that way. So I think that's something that has to happen in the future a bit more. But Rosaria, many teachers have become teachers without having someone to mentor them in the classroom, and they push through and they learn on their own and they try to study. And that's why I appreciate everyone that joins the live stream, because you're trying to improve yourself and you're trying to learn.
Exactly.
And in a similar vein, that's what's going to happen online too, is that we're just going to have to learn on the go and hopefully share that with people in the future once it opens up a bit
exactly
more.
And join some Facebook groups. YouTube's your best friend, and just learn as much as you can for yourself. I think that's the and be professional and be present and be prepared.
I just want to quickly read this last from our lovely Martha. She says, I always ask my students about the interest on our first online lesson so I can adjust my material. So once in a while, that's something I know and read about. That's beautiful. Martha, awesome. I'm lazy. I just ask students questions and then forget about it. And then three classes later, Eric, I already told you what my favorite group is. I'm like, we're going over it again. No, that's a great one. Well, Semi, what are final thoughts? Last message to everyone out there, except check out Class on the Cloud. and
Class in the
subscribe.
Cloud, yeah.
She's also Class in the Cloud, sorry. And then she's also on Facebook. I think I'm not sure if we linked that one. But final message.
Final message is enjoy it and be yourself. Practice yourself. So just when you go out there and teach, be yourself. Let the students see who you are. Stay professional, stay engaged, be prepared, and yeah, you can be a success. Put in the time and the effort, and you will be a success.
Be yourself, because there's only one of you. Thank you so
There
much
we
for
go.
coming here and sharing your experience. Everyone, have a lovely day. Tomorrow we've got Boni-esther, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there for tomorrow. Okay, everyone, have a lovely day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me, Eric. I'll speak to you soon. Goodbye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.